What's going on, UFC fans? I'm back here with another video here set for you guys. Gonna be giving my reaction and recap of the UFC Fight Night Vegas card, Burns versus Morales. Thankfully, this card was over and done with very, very quick. We got a lot of finishes on this card. The best thing that you can ask for from an Apex card is things getting done very, very quick, and honestly, a lot of bangers of fight on this card. And before I even get my recap and reaction done, the what fight was it? The Rodolfo Bellato versus Paul Craig co-main event that was supposed to go on. Unfortunately, didn't go through because Bellato suffered an injury beforehand, before he even got into the cage. So the card was cut a bit short, but thankfully it was cut short because these Apex events, to be able to go through them, sometimes it's a damn drag. But starting off the card with the opener, we had Tisha Pennington versus Luana Pinheiro. Pennington being married to Raquel Pennington, the former champion, them also having a baby. Tisha Pennington is actually pretty. She's okay. She's solid. She's very mid. She's very decent. He gets the job. Well, I'm not gonna let me not get ahead of myself. This is not just getting the job done. In my honest opinion, in the first round, Tisha Pennington did outwork Luana Pinheiro, even though it was a very close round in my opinion. I think Tisha got the job done. In the second round, I think Luana was fighting more of her pace of her fight, especially on the feet and the striking ability that she was showing out there. I think Luana took that round. And in the third round, I think it was kind of similarly very competitive on the feet. Luana was doing a little bit better, in my opinion, and then she got the takedown over Tisha Pennington. I think she should have won 2-1 over Tisha Pennington, in my honest opinion. But it is what it is. Tisha Pennington got the dub. I don't agree. I'm not going to go with super crazy robbery. This is WMMA. I really don't give one big F trying to keep this monetized at all. So yeah, they gave it to Tisha. It is what it is. I really don't care. And moving on up the card, we got Hyung Sung Park versus Carlos Hernandez. Hyung Sung Park taking care of business very, very early, thankfully, in that first round against Carlos Hernandez. Park was really just hunting Hernandez down, taking a little bit of shots here and there, some low kicks, some jabs. Hernandez was trying to keep him off of him, but he was all along the cage side. And Park just really started to get a little bit more on the gas in that first round, landed some nice shots, was able to get into the takedown position, took this guy's back, and then sinked in a real nice, on the chin, kind of a rear naked choke, but it was enough pressure to be able to get the job and the finish done, especially from a long layoff. Great victory for Hyung Sung Park. Moving up the card, we had Elise Reed versus Denise Gomez. If you've seen these two women, right in front of center of each other, you kind of knew who's going to win this fight based off testosterone alone. And we're talking about WMMA. If you want to be clued in on this one, Denise Gomez completely dominated Elise Reed, especially on the feet. Elise Reed just keeping her left hand down, that jab hand down, and she was just getting stuffed the right hand. She got absolutely rocked and wobbled with one, having a nice little mouse under her face. Then got taken down and got controlled on by Denise Gomez, who was landing some ground and pound here and there, not really doing much, trying to be able to fish for submissions, develop her game a little bit, as you want to be able to say. And then you start into the second round, and Denise Gomez again is just, she landed another perfectly timed overhand right over the top of that jab hand of Elise Reed. Knocked her down, wobbled her, had her going to the cage, got some ground and pound, another left hook, slumped her down out, and then more and more ground and pound. I think Jason Herzog should have jumped in there a little bit earlier than what he did, but it is what it is. Denise Gomez gets a nice TKO victory over Elise Reed. Kind of the writing was already on the wall on that one. It was a nasty look because that mouse and that cut that Elise Reed had, especially through her nose, was rough. It was rough, but this was expected, especially from looking, again, at the frames of these women. Again, moving on up the card, we got what I believe was the debut in the bantamweight division of Luana Santos versus Tainara Lisboa. Luana Santos was, from the onset, just dominant from go. had dominant top control throughout the entirety of that first round, landing nice ground and pound, fishing for submissions, did whatever she wanted to, honestly. And the same thing in the second round, just more ground and pound, more top control, more dominant positions, just really making her way into a 30-27 victory, unanimous decision against Lisboa. But then fishes in for this nice submission. Forgot what they called it. Was a real nice, rare type of submission that a lot of people hasn't been able to see. Kind of like a Kimura. Again, I forgot the name of this type of submission that they had in. But Luana Santos gets a nice dominant submission victory in her debut in the bantamweight division. Stake her claim in that name in that division. Be able to get into the rankings, get some top names, show that she's actually competitive in this division after she just moved up. So it was a good victory for her, and it was another notable, easy kind of seeing victory for that one. And moving on up the card, we got Yanner Del Valle versus Connor Matthews. Coming up from the Dana White Contender Series, Yanner is looking like an absolute monster. I believe it's in the lightweight division that this guy's in. He's looking really good, man. He on the feet against Connor Matthews, even though Connor Matthews is very much so a can. Yanir just dominant, just running through this dude, landing beautiful shots whenever it be on the feet. And Connor Matthews, when he went down to the ground and kind of looked like a turtle right on its back, right on its shell, looking like I didn't know what the hell to do. Yanir was just dominant, just gets into his guard, raining some ground and pound, fishing it for submission, finally gets his back, and then starting to flat Connor Matthews out, as you see in that picture above. Gets this nice little cinched in, just gets the arm right under the chin, gets a nice RNC type of victory, and then there's a lot of, thankfully so, a lot of finishes so far on this card. Yanir, a nice contender on the up and coming prospect, as they say, to be able to build his name in the UFC so far. I wouldn't say decent win because Connor Matthews is pretty trash, but a win in the UFC regardless. And he gets his name up to claim, stock goes up, he's rising up his market. Good on for him. And moving on up the card, we got my first prediction on my prediction video wrong. That being with Jared Gordon versus Thiago Moises. I should have seen the writing on the wall, if I'm being very honest. But I actually thought that Thiago Moises was a little bit better than what he thought he was. And talking about Jared Gordon and him being on a 6-fight winning streak, quote unquote, that's exactly what he said. And is he on as of right now? Very, very great win for him, especially in his career. Another vet, similar to his resume in the UFC so far, just landing a perfect right hand over the top after he was pretty much just dominating the rest of the first round, whether he had top control in the grappling department. On the feet, he was out low kicking him and pretty much outpointing him so far. And then just, again, picture perfect right hand over the top on the bell, dropping Thiago Moises bad, nasty. Thiago Moises somehow is still semi-conscious, and a right hand right on the chin puts him out for good. Great KO win. KO on the card, 100%. Maybe KO of the year, if we're being quite honest. This might be KO of the year, right? We got Mauricio Huffy. We got Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby. I think that might be KO of the year, if we're being very honest about the UFC so far. Moving on up the card, we got Gabe Green versus Mateus Camilo. Shout out to these boys. Mateus Camilo was very, very dominant in that first round, being a lot more explosive in terms of the exchanges of them being on the feet. On the ground, he locks in this leg triangle, has it in cinched in, trying to be able to get the armbar as well. Was in there tight against Gabe Green, and somehow, some way, the toughness, the grit, being out for 2 years, he needed that paycheck. He needed that winning paycheck 100%. Gabe Green got out of that submission and then started to wear down on Mateus Camilo. You just started to see, especially if his UFC debut, it just started to wear on him like, damn, I thought I was going to be able to get the sub-victory in my UFC debut. Didn't happen. Now what can I be able to do? How am I going to finish this guy? How am I going to win this fight? You could just see the writing on the wall with Mateus Camilo. Going into the second round, Gabe Green being a lot more aggressive, especially with him coming forefront, landing more of the better shots, really, again, starting to wear and break down Mateus Camilo, especially him with being a more of a UFC vet type of guy compared to Camilo. And then Gabe Green on the ground. Then really ironic how it was on the ground, and he gets the submission victory in the RNC over Mateus Camilo. Gabe Green, shout out to him. He needed that win bonus 100%, coming off that 2-year layoff. He needed it very, very badly. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I don't blame him at all, man. Because Jesus, being off that long. Shout out to Gabe Green, man. What a great victory for him to be able to jump back his career to where it needs to be. And moving on to the main card, we got probably the war of the century, Juliana Rosa versus Miquel Costa. I knew this fight was going to be a banger. I thought we were going to get a finish, but Juliana Rosa is a literal zombie. I do not know how he was not finished, laid unconscious on the canvas at all, but I am kind of happy that he didn't. Banger of a fight between these two guys. Miquel Costa came out on fire in that first round, landing like a head kick to a right hand right down the middle on Juliana Rosa, wobbling and hurting him pretty bad. Again, I don't know how this dude was going out. Landing uppercuts, landing knees up the middle, knees to the body. Miquel Costa was on fire in that first round. Second round, it was a lot more competitive. But I think Costa was a lot more accurate and more precise with his shots, even though Juliana Rosa was, coming in a little bit better with more volume, trying to weather that storm that he was coming through in that first round. Competitive, very close, but again, I think Costa for sure got that second round. And going into the third round, this is where Juliana Rosa really turned himself from a human being to a literal zombie, whether it be from The Walking Dead, whether it be from Minecraft, whether it be from the Last of Us. I have no idea. He just turned into a literal zombie where he was walking down and eating everything that was coming his way. I don't know how. But shout out to Juliana Rosa, but he did it. Literal taking, again, punishment, just straight shots to the head as well, but just coming and continuing with this pressure against Miquel Costa, kind of breaking him, making him look pretty bad. He was just kind of like just turning his way around to get out of ways and then just continuously moving backwards. But shout out to Miquel Costa. Got through the storm of the third round that Juliana Rosa was just coming through with, and these guys were going to, again, the war of the century, toe-to-toe, blow for blow. Again, I don't know how Juliana Rosa was not laid out flat on the canvas in this fight. But Miquel Costa gets his third win in a row, or excuse me, I think it's like his fourth win in a row, but this is like his third win in like 4 months, or like 3 months. Absolutely insane activity. Absolutely insane streak as of right now. In terms of just victory, his competition has been, it's been okay. It's been pretty decent. C-Rod, and you got Juliana Rosa. I believe he has a few other names as well they're okay. But he's on a streak. Andre Philly as well. He's on a streak as of right now. He's looking pretty good in the lightweight division. Maybe he's going to get, not in the rankings. I don't think he'll get a ranking matchup just next, but I think he'll eventually get to somebody that's just barely out of the rankings in the lightweight division, and then finally getting his way, if he gets over that hump, to the rankings. And moving on up the card, we got a very, very frustrating, head-scratching loss for Dustin Stolfus. I think he had this one in the bag against Nursultan Ruzaboyev. Ruzaboyev making his debut in the middleweight division. He looks a lot better than what he was looking in the welterweight division. Looks like he filled out a lot more, especially out through his body. He took the jump up pretty well. In that first round, it was very close and competitive. I think Ruzaboyev was landing the better shots in terms of what it was on the stand-up until a head clash came up too. And then Ruzaboyev ends up on bottom, and then Stolfus is then cinching in this guillotine that's in tight somehow, some way. Ruzaboyev is able to weather that storm, get through that submission, and is able to just be able to scramble out of it like Volk. It looked like he was Volk versus Brian Ortega, similar to how that guillotine was cinched in. Again, I don't know how this dude was able to pop his head out from it. And then Dustin Stolfus is having more success. I think he won that round because, I'm not going to say based off damage, but based off almost ending the fight, having multiple submission attempts, really trying to be able to put on the pressure against Ruzaboyev on the ground, and then him having some power, especially. He was landing a few shots here and there. Moving on to the second round, Ruzaboyev, I think he was starting to get a little bit better in terms of things on the feet. landing these spinning heel kicks right to the head of Dustin Stolfus, and Stolfus was somehow eating it. These both guys were going to a bloody war with each other, but somehow, someway, Stolfus just, I don't know, man. He just let the fight slip away from his hands. He really could have been able to win this fight if he wanted to. But Ruzaboyev was just a little bit better, had a little bit more volume, landing 1-2s, landing 2s down the pipe, was doing more damage on the feet. Third round is similar, same thing. But I think Stolfus, having more submission attempts on the ground, having more top control. He had some top control in the second round as well. Stolfus, man, he could have been able to come out with this victory in this one, in my honest opinion. But he's a big dumb idiot. I don't expect much out of him. He's a big, oafy, dense middleweight in there that's trying to be able to knock your head off, and he's not really looking for, having some IQ to be able to win some type of decision. So I don't blame him much, but he could have been able to win it by decision if he actually wanted to. But Ruzaboyev comes out with the victory. Doesn't look that impressive in my honest opinion in the middleweight bump up, but it filled out his frame pretty well. So maybe if he matches up against some other dudes in the middleweight division who, at the end of the rankings are not as great compared to the welterweight division as of right now, he can be able to make it into the rankings, but I don't think he'll ever get as high as he did in the welterweight rankings. And moving on to the co-main event, we got Sodiq Yusuff versus Myron Santos. But before I even get into depth with this fight, I called it. The cards didn't show it. People online are not going to say it, whatever, but I called it. This was another very, very close nail-biter type of fight. A lot of people, especially on the judges, had like 30-27. I did not see that at all. Sodiq Yusuff 100% won that first round. He was looking a lot better, especially with the feints. I think he was outworking Myron Santos, where Myron Santos was trying to be able to figure out his way, get his IQ going, trying to be able to see what the game plan is against a guy like Sodiq Yusuff. And I think Yusuff was the overall just better fighter, or looking like the better fighter between the two in that first round. So I gave that first round to Sodiq Yusuff. Second round, 100% Myron Santos. It went to him. He was a lot more dominant, started to be able to get his reads a little bit more, started to land his jab, his low kicks. He landed this nice head kick over the top that cut up Sodiq Yusuff pretty bad, got into some clinch positions where he was landing some nice knees, was doing a lot better, and I think he just won that second round overall. Then you go into the third round where it started to get hairy. Myron Santos and, Yusuff was very close and competitive. I think Santos was, like, barely edging it out. Like, it was very, very close. This was similar on to par of what the Francis Marshall fight was, in my honest opinion. Sodiq Yusuff then goes in for the takedown, gets the takedown. He's holding on Myron Santos to the fence, and he's trying to marab his way to victory. Is in a dominant position, but is not really doing much, and they gave the victory to Myron Santos, who I honestly, if there's going to be a winner on this one, I would have gave it to Myron Santos. But again, it was another close fight, and he just seems to be able to somehow, some way pull it out and edges this way to be able to get these victories. I don't know if that's going to be able to last as long in his career, but as of right now, it's working, I guess. Myron Santos is very good, very technical. Kind of looks a little bit like Anderson Silva in there. Like a bit. I can see it. Silva-esque. But I'm not super impressed so far by Myron Santos at all. And we go on to the main event. We got, speaking of impressive, we got Michael Morales completely dominating Gilbert Burns. I thought Burns was going to be finished a little bit later in this fight, but I eventually thought that this was going to be the end result of what it was going to be. Not much to be able to talk about, honestly, because Michael Morales, again, just completely annihilated Gilbert Burns in there. It was a massacre. Gilbert Burns looks like he's way over the hill. It's about time that he's able, to get done with his career. But a lot of people, after getting a Gilbert Burns victory, has gone on to pretty great success. Starting off with JDM, in his 4-fight losing streak. I forgot who was the first guy that he lost to Bilal. Bilal went and won the championship, right? Then after that, you got JDM. JDM took that year-long layoff to deal with the injuries and the surgeries and all those things. Now he's the welterweight champ. Then after that, he came in and went against Sean Brady, got dominated in 5 rounds against Sean Brady. Now Sean Brady's the number 1 contender in the welterweight division. Michael Morales goes in there against Gilbert Burns, who's kind of much of a shell of himself because so now he's on a 3-fight losing streak, now on a 4-fight losing streak, and just got finished for the first time in his career in the first round. He is going to be something. He's definitely has what a lot of other fighters believe that they don't have, especially on the feet. And while he does, especially looking at the fight with Carlos Prates against Ian Gary, Carlos Prates had an issue being in the mid range and trying to be able to get into those things that he wanted to be able to get into. Michael Morales does not have that issue as of right now, and as a prospect and as a contender so far in the welterweight division, where it is super duper stacked. I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna probably have Carlos Prates coming off that loss, probably match him back up against Jeff Neal, which would be I think a banger matchup between those two dudes. You have Joaquin Buckley, because if you're going to have Morales beat Burns as of right now, he's going to be taking Burns' position, who's number 8 as of right now. Right above him is Joaquin Buckley, who they have already matched up against Kamaru Usman. JDM just won the belt. Sean Brady's number 1. I think they're going to have Sean Brady go against Shavkat. Bilal is coming off a loss. I think he's going to take some time off, especially after that brutal beating that he took against JDM. So I think he's going to be out for some time. Ian Gary is coming off the Carlos Prates win, but most of the time he's not going to be able to want to look down in the rankings. He's going to want to be looking up, trying to be able to get some type of victory. I think you can match up Michael Morales against a guy as of right now, maybe like a Leon Edwards, who's coming off back-to-back losses where he got really exposed on the ground. You can have a striker matchup against these two dudes and it would be absolutely great. Or if not, maybe you can do the Michael Morales versus Ian Gary matchup and hopefully Morales can get the job done where Prates didn't. But there's a lot of ways that you can be able to mix and match this welterweight division as of right now. I would love to see the matchup versus Prates versus Morales. That would be absolutely a barn burner, a pick'em fight, in my honest opinion, between those two dudes. I don't think that they do it as of right now, especially as a Prates coming off that loss. They want to get him back into winning ways, while Morales is streaking as of right now. And plus, they're both young prospects in the UFC. They need some time to be able to get a little bit more development under their wings. But Michael Morales getting that absolutely necessary great name and win on his resume, such as a Gilbert Burns, pushes his stock up a lot more than a lot of other people thought that he was. A lot of other people thought that he was kind of a fraud, kind of a whatever type of fighter, one of these dudes that they can be able to just get their ways to, decisions. But then he started to get back-to-back finishes as of right now over names like Neil Magny and Gilbert Burns, who's fought against the who's who. They've been in the welterweight division for so many odd years. But yeah, I think that's what they'll probably be able to do next is having number 8 going against, I believe, Leon Edwards, who's number 4, unless they don't have Leon match up against Ian Gary. And especially since Michael Morales didn't take a lot of damage, and Ian Gary, his fight that he had with Prates was kind of like a few weeks or maybe like a month off so far. They maybe want to have him later up. Leon has been out since his last time he fought is like February or March. I think it was in February. So they might want to give him a little bit more time to be able to get some rest up. And then, boom, you have the matchup against Morales. I think that would be an absolute banger to have him jump up in the welterweight rankings super far. A lot of new fresh blood in this welterweight division is absolutely tremendous. Gilbert Burns, in my honest opinion, I think he's about 38 on a 4-fight losing streak. I think he should retire or think about retirement 100%. And if he's not going to retire, match him up against an old head, a legend that hasn't been able to match up against him so far, like a Colby Covington. Colby Covington versus Gilbert Burns, two mainstays in the welterweight division that's been there for so long. Why not? It kind of sells it. SOB, these guys are already over the hump in terms of their careers. Why not make a little bit of extra money with them being both names in this division? So I guess that's the only thing that I can think of for Gilbert Burns. He's still going to probably be in the rankings, but dropping a lot lower. And then Colby's around his range anyway, so I don't know. To me, it makes sense. But yeah, that is the recap and reaction and video of this UFC Apex event. Like this video if you obviously like this video. Comment your opinions on what do you think is the next matchups for these guys, and how did you think about this card overall in general. I thought this card was as best as it could be for an Apex. I talk about this all the time, where there's a lot of finishes, there's a lot of things going on, but you know, it's an Apex card nonetheless. And subscribe, UFC fans. You're here for a reason. Why not stay even longer? Because you guys love this content, and I love you for loving this content. So yeah, stay, please, please. Thank you guys again for watching again, and peace.